This is being live streamed. You all consent to being live streamed.
Do we really have a choice?
Yes, you could just walk off. You could walk off and
Okay,
hide behind your dog. But we're now being recorded, so be good. Well, today is Wednesday, November the 24th. And just a few days ago, Ken and Bill Johnson and I were online celebrating Kyle Rittenhouse. Now that turned out, I mean, I don't feel quite as happy about that as I did on Friday, because basically we were cheering him on, and basically it appears as of Monday night that he won in part by disowning us. You know, people like you, as someone once said, right, Jessica?
Yes. He's now a cuck, right?
Ken, happy Thanksgiving Eve. You and Jessica do know each other, right?
I do not think we have met. Have we, Jessica?
I'm not sure. I like your house. That's pretty sweet.
Thank you. This is my cabin. This is my office.
That is awesome.
I call it his broadcast barn. It's very elegant.
Yeah, that's a good name, broadcast barn. My house is actually about 10 feet away.
Well,
So this is in my backyard.
That's your doghouse when your old lady gets mad at you.
Exactly. It's my retreat. I had a business years ago, downtown Columbus, and as things slowed down, I decided it's kind of silly to pay rent because, you know, my employees were gone. So I just built a cabin in my backyard. This became my workplace. And when I retired, it's still here. So
it's very elegant. It really is. I mean, is that all? I mean, you don't have to answer this, you know, but is that all natural wood, or is some of it fake wood?
the blinds are fake. Everything else is natural.
Okay.
The Amish actually built this. They have a place in Kentucky where they build cabins. They brought it up here, put it on a truck, and plopped it down in my backyard.
Anyhow, if I haven't properly introduced you before, Ken, I've been doing broadcasts with for 4 or 5 years now, ever since the monument started coming down. He discovered me in front of Jefferson Davis on what used to be called Jefferson Davis Boulevard in New Orleans, defending Jefferson Davis and explaining the truth about slavery. I'll never forget that night. And anyhow, that was the night that I actually made it to the New York Times. How do you like that? But anyhow, and Jessica, I have known for 2 years and 1 month, I think, or maybe a month and a half as of this moment. She is a completely anti-Confederate, anti-white, basically a member of Antifa, as you can tell by the flag she's flying in the background. But I think we.
Oh wait, I don't have my Antifa flag up. Oh crap!
Well,
I don't have my 3 arrows on.
Jessica, I'm just identifying you in a way that protects you in the modern world. Because what if you just changed venue?
Yeah, you guys are talking. I'm playing with the computer.
Well, I think that if the past week has taught us anything, it's that if you want to win in the American courts, you have to endorse Black Lives Matter, because that is what Rittenhouse did. And he is the sole victor this week. I mean, in the past 2 days, just in time for Thanksgiving, we've had basically insane verdict rendered in Charlottesville, 25 million basically for hurt feelings. And then today, 3 guilty verdicts in Georgia. I mean, Jessica and Ken, Is there any other explanation other than that these are purely political verdicts and that Black Lives Matter and Antifa run the country?
Well, personally, I think that it is nothing but pure political agenda. You know, when you have a different in ideology than the left, and even though you get a permit to attend a rally of sorts, just like a concert, maybe you wanted to go to I don't know, let's just say.
You look like you want to go to a Leonard Skinner concert, actually.
Yeah. So you wanted to go to a Leonard Skinner concert, and then you had other people that didn't like Leonard Skinner, and they sat on the side, and then they started throwing piss and feces and acid or whatever else that you can fit in balloons. I'm still not figuring out how they did the feces, but just beyond that. But anyway, so they can throw these. Yeah, let's not think about it. But when they can go in there and attack the people that are having the event, that are permitted to have the event, and then the organizers, it just doesn't make any sense. And really, to me, it almost seems like it's not about who organized the event. It's not about who committed the violence. It almost is like, you know, we get a permit to do an event, and then it doesn't matter if Antifa or BLM shows up. At that point, anybody that conducts any kind of violence whatsoever, whatever it may be, then that makes the people who got the permit, the organizers, responsible for their violence, even if the violence was against them as well. And then in another aspect of it, because you love your own people, you want to preserve your own people, then that's now a crime. I mean, and then for you to have an opinion, an opinion about something different from theirs, and now it was basically, Charlottesville is basically just nothing but a vendetta. It is a way to stifle your enemy. You know, instead of going on the battlefields, you know, like the wars of past, we will go out to the courthouse and we'll sue the hell out of you just because you disagree with the way that we think.
Ken, what's your take on all this?
Which in particular should I address here? The Rittenhouse thing?
Whatever's burning you most right now. I mean, Kyle Rittenhouse saying after winning a victory that he supported Black Lives Matter. That was the beginning. And then Charlottesville on Tuesday, 26 million. And seriously, you know, the only damages that those people really ever alleged that they had was hurt feelings. And then today, the two McMichaels and the third guy whose name I forget were found guilty.
I think it was Brian.
I'm sorry, I just forget his name. But anyway, can you shut your dog up?
Yeah, right. Come on.
Sorry, Charles, I thought you had the hiccups. So what is that?
That wasn't you. Every time I talk to Jessica, her dog gets on the line. I think her dog is jealous or something.
My dog likes to be part of the podcast too, okay?
You
get the whole package.
your dog can be part of the podcast, but I'd prefer he be a silent partner.
Here, get up here and lay down. Come on, crackhead.
Is that Mauser?
Yes. Well, this is Zoe. I don't know if you can see her. Okay, the little brown dog.
Okay, that's Zoe and Mauser. One of her dogs is named after a powerful rifle.
German steel.
You know, I'm curious. They awarded more than $25 million in damages. Who is liable for that? I mean, who's
Everybody, all the defendants share. I believe it's $500K per individual, 1 double M per organization. So the League of the South, the Traditional Workers Party, the KKK, was it a million?
No, Vanguard America, TWP. I think that's it. No, NSM as well.
The KKK defaulted, so that nothing was awarded against them.
No, that's kind of funny. I really didn't quite understand that. There was a lot of defendants, but then there was a lot of defendants that did not show up for the actual court proceedings, and somehow they got omitted out of everything. I'm not going to say, who. There's several, but I just don't quite understand that, I guess.
Well, Augustus Invictus, the only one I know for sure is Augustus Invictus said that he was never served, so he did.
Yes, and there was another one. I'm trying to think too, and then, like I said, even the Klan, there was nobody there for the Klan either. So
why don't they just file bankruptcy and reorganize? Is that not a possibility?
It is a possibility, but it's a matter of whether these organizations can reorganize, and if the individuals declare bankruptcy, I mean, it depends on whether they've got mortgages and whether they have sufficient income to protect the things that are important to them in a bankruptcy.
But the organizations, if they have no, if they don't have anything, they don't have money, they don't have property, they don't have any assets. I mean, first of all, they can't ding them. They can come after them, but they're basically judgment proof. And I don't know these organizations. Maybe they do. I know the Klan lost a building, 20-some years ago. But what if they have no assets? And shouldn't this be just a $25 million lesson that if you're going to form an organization, make sure you're covered? Your rear end is covered. Don't have any assets. And if they sue you, just okay, here's a blank check. Fill it in, and we're filing bankruptcy, whatever. Not literally, but you know what I mean. I'd say this was a $25 million tuition.
What it is it's intimidating, because in other words, the Republican and Democratic Party, and even some of the minor parties like the Libertarian Party and the Greens, actually are money-making operations. And so you make a face at that.
If the libertarians are money making, they're not very good at it. I don't know that they have any assets.
Well, here my point really was that the Democrats and the Republicans certainly have a lot of property and a lot of money, and they carry a great deal of liability insurance. Because they have assets to protect. And so in terms of, in law school, we often talked about the chilling effect of certain laws on freedom of speech and exercise of other rights. And I think it's almost beyond reasonable doubt that this is going to have a terrible chilling effect on freedom of speech, because what does it take to win in politics or any other kind of endeavor? It takes money, and it takes people willing to invest money. And right now, the lawyers who brought the plaintiff's case probably know that if they collect 1 mil on the dollar in this case, they're going to be doing great. 1 mil on the dollar, maybe 1/10 of a mil on the dollar, they'll be doing great. But what effect is it going to have? I mean, you didn't watch any of the trial in Charlottesville, did you?
I watched none of it, no.
Okay.
I didn't even know I could watch it. I didn't know it was on.
Well, you can't. Well, you couldn't watch it, but you could have listened to it. And you know, on the last day, the Traditional Workers Party, which was probably not one of my favorite parties ever. I certainly never joined. I liked Matthew Heimbach a lot. You know, about 10 years ago when he was first starting out.
I went crazy. Yeah.
But I mean, but when he started out at Townsend University in Maryland, forming the White Students Union, there was something very inspirational about it.
Well, I would say that he presented as inspirational, but sometimes the way the people mask and you look behind the mask, there's something else there. And I think that may be the case in his case, but I don't know. I only met the guy once, so I don't know what he's thinking. But your original question was, does Black Lives Matter and Antifa control the country? And my response, Charles, would be, who controls Antifa and Black Lives Matter? That's who controls the country. And I wonder, and I'm not making an allegation here, I'm just wondering if his name could be George.
Well, it's not George Washington.
George somebody, I can't think of this.
It's not George Wallace.
No, he's dead.
It's not George Lincoln Rockwell.
To me, I think there's a 3-letter word that really describes this Mr. George, but he has a gang of people behind him.
This is kind of like QAnon, only backwards. It's like Q George.
It's Gauze backwards.
No, we don't know. We don't seem to know who he is, but it's Q George, whoever it is. But the point is, Black Lives Matter and Antifa, which both are misnamed, by the way, they're both misnomers, are agents of a bigger ideology. And I would identify that ideology as Marxism. How that's tied together sounds like a conspiracy theory. I know that, but how it's all tied together and how it works, I don't really know. But I'm guessing George and people like him are behind it. But that's just my supposition. So, but if we drill down, I mean, do Black Lives Matter? Well, of course they do. Not to abortionists, not to anybody who gives a flip about black crime and black neighborhoods. I call it African America. They don't care about those black lives. They only care about black lives when it suits their purpose. And what about Antifa? Does anybody even know what fascism is? These people say they're anti-fascists, and if you're opposed to them, well, then you must be pro-fascist. But it seems to me that the real Antifa, the true anti-fascists, were the guys who stormed Normandy on D-Day. They were anti-fascist. So if you're going to be mad at Antifa, be mad at them. But the group that calls itself Antifa is really pro-Marxism. They just misnamed themselves, which is what leftists do all the time. I've got a pop can on my desk here. Can you read that, by the way?
Hang on. Just one of my many talents. Hang on. Sarcasm is just one of my many talents. Okay.
Somebody gave me that. I don't know why they give me this.
Jessica needs one of those too.
But it says Pepsi. Pepsi on the container, but what if somebody took out the Pepsi and put in beer? I'm almost 70 years old. I've never tasted an alcoholic beverage in my life, not one drip. But if somebody put beer in this, then I couldn't say that anymore. The point being is these guys mislabel themselves on purpose by design to trick people into drinking beer or to accept them. And I don't think Antifa is anti-fascist. I don't think Black Lives Matter cares a flip about Black lives. They just don't, in my opinion. But that raises the question, Charles, what is, if you had to define fascism, what is it? I don't think anybody actually knows.
I define fascism as organized anti-communism in the context of 20th century social reaction. I mean, in the late 19th century, you had really in England, at least, in England and up to a point in the United States, you had two parallel movements. You had Fabian socialism triumph in England. Sorry. You had Fabian socialism triumphing in England, and you had the progressive movement, basically epitomized by William Jennings Bryan and Theodore Roosevelt, Democrats and Republicans, basically standing for the same thing. And they were pushing a kind of modified Marxist agenda. And there was a reaction to that. In Europe, and both in Europe and the United States, it all crystallized in the 1920s, right after World War I, in which the last vestiges of the old order in Europe were wiped out. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, the German Empire, the Russian Empire, the three mainstays of the old order in Europe, slaughtered, knocked off the map, literally. And in Russia, they didn't get to have a reaction. They went straight into full-blown communism. There were people like Rosa Luxemburg and a few others who wanted to do that in Germany, but they failed. The reaction took root in Germany. The reaction in the United States was, what was I talking to you about? Yes, you and I were talking about Donald or D.W. Stevenson, not Donald, it's something else. D.W. Stevenson, but in the United States, the anti-progressive reaction took the form of the Ku Klux Klan and basically the split in the culture between F. Scott Fitzgerald and the East Coast, the flappers on the East and West Coast, and basically the heartland. And because of the failure of the KKK in the 20s, you got, did I say D.W. Stevenson? Sorry. Anyhow, I think that social reaction to the progressives was what all the fascist movements had in common.
Fascism is basically anti-communism, in your opinion.
It was organized anti-communism, and simultaneously, a great suspicion of the democratic process.
Yeah, I think it was expressed that way, but my understanding of fascism, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I really don't know what it is, but my understanding of fascism is that it's government control. And,
a lot of things
the right wing, the right wing can control the government, the left wing can control government, could be communist or whatever. But that's the essence of a fascist. Abraham Lincoln is sitting there with his hands on that bundle. And that kind of represents what it is. It's like all the private enterprise is controlled by government. That's the symbol of the fascist. Now that, to me, is fascism. So when I say I'm anti-fascist, I say I'm anti-government control. And in my opinion, communism, well, there you go again. Communism isn't even communism. But, for sake of using terms, communism is a form of fascism. They just don't say it. But by the way, there are no communes in a communist country, so why do they call themselves communists? They don't have communes, they have slave labor camps. Their factory is slave labor. They call them communes, but this is not owned by the community, it's owned by the government. So, same thing with progressive. Those people are progressive, but the left does that. They just misname everything to give a false impression.
But now here's one of these conundrums that I love to think about. Some people say, based on Mussolini's writings, that fascism should be defined as the collaboration of private corporations with government.
I think it's accurate. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
By that standard, ever since Franklin D. Roosevelt, this has been a fascist nation, the United States. Right. And arguably the most successful fascist nation ever, even though ironically, we replaced the fasces on the silver dime with Franklin D. Roosevelt the year he died. And so we kind of changed from a personality cult, from the symbolic fascism of the fasces to the personality cult of the world created by Roosevelt.
Yeah, we leaving Jessica out of this. She hasn't said a whole lot.
Jessica, where are you?
Right here.
Okay. I mean, do you have a definition of fascism, or do you have any definition of what Antifa does? Let's put it that way.
Okay, well,
we got
what I would describe. Okay, so I guess instead of explaining what fascism is, maybe we need to explain what communism is. Communism, to me, first of all, to be an anarchist, as they claim to be, as I've noticed on several of the things on Telegram, where they stand there with their signs that says pro-vax, pro-abortion, pro this, pro that. So how can you be an anarchist when you are pro-government? But I think they don't understand. When they go to school, they don't really understand, I guess, what they're reading. But to me, communism is basically when you take the Bible, God's word, and yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go there. So everything that is against God, anti-God, when you have the matrimony of a man and a woman, and they put a man and a man, and in God's name they marry them, that is communism. When the difference in right and wrong, at this point in time in America, there is no right. I mean, it's almost like things that for all of us, almost like that turd in a punch bowl, we would see the obvious, like Captain Obvious, that one commercial, whatever. But to us, what is obviously right, to them is wrong. So, like I said before, the ideals, and to me, like, fascism is everything in order. I mean, when you talk about communism, what is communism? So communism is saying, hey, you have a 4-bedroom home. Well, it's only you. So we're going to take that away. Oh, wait, you're not a farmer. You don't need that 5 acres. We're going to take that away. Oh, it's just you and your wife or husband or whatever. Oh, you got a 4-door car. No, you need a 2-door. We're going to give you a little smaller car, one of those little egg cars or whatever. And so basically communism is more government. So again, they choose under the cloak of anarchist. How can you be an anarchist when you are basically asserting more government into everything? Again, how could you get this wrong? If you're if you were truly against everything, you would understand what is going on. You would understand what communism is. I mean, look at China. Look at the way those people are. We're going to tell you how many babies you can have. We're going to tell you if you can have a male baby or a female baby.
But Jessica, I think that's why when American communists moved to communist countries, they changed their opinion. Oswald, he lived in the Soviet Union for a short while. And after he was there, like a week, he changed his mind. He said they're doing it wrong. you know, and these people who are ideological communists, I think you're dead on accurate. They just don't know what they're talking about because they've never actually lived in, they have no point of reference. They've never actually lived in that environment. But once they do, they see the light. I mean, they get it. They understand why it's wrong.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just like children, basically. I mean, you know, to me, I wasn't born of a luxury family or whatever. I didn't have the money for college. So the same people that is talking to me about white privilege are the ones that got to go to prestigious colleges. I mean, I would have loved to have went to UNC or Duke University or Virginia Tech or James Madison University or even Wyoming Technical Institution or any of those prestigious colleges. Instead, I had to go to a community college. And then, of course, I had to immediately go into a trade in order to feed myself, while these communists, these what I call white privilege, because I'm obviously not white privilege. You know, if it is white privilege, let me please give it back. Okay. So, but when they have parents that pay for their college and their cars and their, you know, it's just constantly give. And then in a realistic world like we are living, we have to provide for ourselves beyond where those kids will be career college students. We're going to go in for this kind of topic or this subject, and now we're going to turn around and go for this subject. But how is social studies going to help you in a real world? You know, how is you know, any kind of like, I don't know, they've got like Asian studies or whatever, some kind of weird classes that they have in college. They're just basically filler classes because they will not help you in the real world. But at this point, they want the government to give.
Well,
And
let me ask you this. When I was a teenager and in my early 20s, almost everyone that I knew my age were leftist. I mean, they were the hippie types, the SDS and all of that. Now, everyone my age tends to be a Trump supporter. These are the same people. What happened over those 50 years that they went from being far left to what most people would call extremist? If you think Trump is an extremist, I don't. But what happened?
I don't know. I mean, I seen that too when I was in school and stuff. I mean, yeah, the anarchist was cool, and you know, being I guess whatever, you know, troublesome troublemaker in school and stuff like that. I mean, although I did graduate, so, but I mean, I was kind of bad, but not real bad that I did not do my grades. But the thing is, like I said, there was this group of people, you know, that this was so cool and stuff like that. And I guess as you grow up, then all those bad decisions that you make are kind of washed away, and then you start thinking about reality.
Yeah, I think what happened over those 50 years is life. You know, when we were kids, we were ideologists, but as you get into life and you face reality, then you have a point of reference and you get it. And it's kind of sometimes it's kind of slow in coming, but coming it does. But I think that's what happened. The only difference is that my political views have changed virtually, just haven't changed at all. I mean, when I was first person I ever voted for was George Wallace in the presidential primary. That's the first and only time I ever voted for a Democrat, but my views just haven't changed. But most everyone else, the views have changed. You know, there's that old saying that if you're not a leftist, when you're a young person, you have no heart. And if you are not a conservative, when you're older, you have, I don't know how the saying goes, but.
No brains.
What?
No brains.
No brains. I don't know what it is. So
yeah,
young, dumb, and full of spirit.
Ken, so was that in 1972 that you voted for Wallace in the primary?
I just turned 18, so I guess, yeah. Maybe it was, I don't know. Yeah, it must have been 72, 71, 72.
In 68,
Well, it was,
in
yeah,
68,
it was the,
he ran American Independent. And in 72, he ran as a Democrat and became too much of a threat.
it was a 72 or 71, 72 election, maybe 71.
I don't know, 72 presidential election for you to vote for him in the primary. Okay. That would have been in the spring of 72. Yeah. I remember it sadly, vividly. But
I must have been 19 then, but still, it was the first time I ever voted. Sorry.
But anyhow, I threw this cartoon up. This is one of my favorite cartoons because what's interesting is that this identified the coalition that elected Abraham Lincoln with the progressive movement. And what Jessica was talking about is basically the cultural side of Marxism, which is what I normally refer to as Fabian Marxism, Fabian progressivism. They use the name of the Roman general Fabius, who conquered in increments, developed the basically strategy of fighting very slowly and incrementally. And look at these captions here, because they're sort of articulating the concept of diversity and non-morality that you were saying, that you were talking about. Now, my friend, this is Lincoln speaking. Now, my friends, I'm about in, and the millennium is going to begin. So ask what you will, and it shall be granted. First woman is saying, "Oh, what a beautiful man he is. I feel a passionate attraction, quote unquote, every time I see his lovely face." The second person says, "I represent the free love element and expect to have free license to carry out its principles."
How old is this, Charles?
Huh?
How old is this?
1860.
Wow.
You'll see that from the next one. "I want religion abolished and the Book of Mormon made the standard of morality." I mean, look at this. This is Abraham Lincoln without a beard.
That sounds right today, though, because they want
that's what I was thinking.
God out of everything.
That's my point. That's what I want women's rights enforced and man reduced in subjugation to her authority. The white man had no rights that colored persons am bound to respect. I want that understood.
Don't read like that, Charles. They'll be done had a lawsuit on you trying to say that you was talking in racist tongue.
I'm just correctly representing a historical document.
Sound like Barbara Billingsley.
It's spelled that way. I want everybody to have a share of everybody else's property. No, I mean, this is exactly what you were talking about. I want a hotel.
It is exactly perfect. It is perfect for today.
It started in 1860. And so what is fascism? Basically, fascism is a reaction to this. This is diversity, right? This is diversity pictured in 1860. Let's see, I want a hotel established by government where people that are not, hang on, gotta get rid of that. Why is that there?
Looks like a text box.
That ain't inclined to work can board free of expense and be found in rum and tobacco. I want guaranteed to every citizen the right to examine every other citizen's pockets without interruption by policemen. I want all the stations, houses burned and burned up and the MPs killed so that the what is it? Boys? Can't read that. Can run with all the machine and have a. Can you read that, Ken?
And have a mass must. Now your things in the
When
way.
they please.
When they
Anyhow,
please.
this is 1860.
Burned up and that was what you couldn't read there, I think.
The Republican Party going to the White House instead of the White House.
What is an MP, by the way?
In this,
Military police, probably.
the station's houses burned to the ground. I'm not sure, Ben, what it meant. I mean, in Britain, it always means member.
Would it be military police? Military police,
It could be, but
MP.
what's the station's house?
Well, I'm assuming it's police, but I don't know.
Hmm?
But yeah, the same
Yes.
thing they're teaching today. Nothing's changed.
This is a very interesting cartoon, and you know, basically, I think fascism is saying no to all of this.
Yeah, no, I would be what you call a fascist. I just don't define it that way.
No, I mean exactly. I mean that's
Yes,
the
no,
problem. That is precisely the problem. I mean, the one time I ever talked to Michael Hill, who's the head of the League of the South, we ended for somehow or other we ended up talking about the Spanish Civil War, and I guess we were comparing the Spanish Civil War to the U.S. Civil War, and we both agreed the Spanish.
War between the states,
We both agreed
or
that
the war of northern aggression.
we both agreed that the United States Civil War was not a real civil war, that it was more like what would happen if the UN would break up and the member states of the United Nations would go to war with each other. That the Spanish Civil War was a real civil war. And if we have another civil war in the United States, it's going to be a lot more like the English Civil War of the 1640s and 1650s, or the Spanish Civil War of the 1930s, or the Mexican Civil War of the 1920s. It's going to be a war of interest groups, basically of people who support this model of diversity, which was the Republican Party entry into the world, really. And this.
Your signal keeps dropping.
What?
Your signal keeps dropping.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm hearing you fine, so must be on your end.
Anyhow,
No, I mean I can hear him, but it keeps on cutting off. So I don't know.
Yeah, he's fine on my end. So apparently it's recording. Okay.
I hope so. Anyhow, the point is that if we have this cleavage in the United States right now, except if we look at the three verdicts of the past week, which is what I really wanted to kind of focus on here. If we look at the verdicts of the past week, the only one that went the way any of us would want is the one of the guy who endorsed, who at least post facto endorsed Black Lives Matter. And it's hard to believe that that doesn't have something major to do with it. And Jessica was suggesting that we consider this issue earlier, but I'm now sharing the docket for Sines v. Kessler, which is the case brought in Charlottesville that just Alan Levine is showing as lead attorney. He was the attorney for the lead plaintiff, and let's see, Alexandra Kendall Conlon from Kaplan, Heckler and Fink LLC, Alexandra Aber, Amanda Lee Liverzani, Benjamin Daniel White. Where is Kaplan? I want Liebling, Fink, Max, Rottenborn, Tenzer. The list of attorneys goes on a long time here, and why have I not found Matthew Lowe Block, Roberta Ann Kaplan, Heckler and Fink, and then Samantha Strauss. I mean, do you think we're wrong to notice a certain tendency in the names of the attorneys here?
For example,
Roberta Ann Kaplan, Hecker, and Fink.
what is it about Kaplan?
Yotam Barkay, Alan Levine.
Okay, Levine is Jewish.
I mean, they're all gauze backwards.
They're all what?
They're gauze backwards.
Gauze?
Zog. You can't say Zog, sorry.
I can't even understand what you're saying here. Anyhow, what are you saying?
They're the Zog is what I'm talking about.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's okay.
You gotta send
Y'all
him
missed it
private.
completely, I guess.
You gotta send him a message.
But I mean, Roberta Kaplan. Now let's talk a little bit about the case itself. Roberta Kaplan was kind of obnoxious to listen to in most of her examinations, but on the final day, the highlight of the case from my viewpoint was listening to Michael Hill. I guess it was like 2 weeks ago, Friday or something, when we was called as a witness, and I thought he made an absolutely outstanding presentation on behalf of himself and the League of the South. And at that point, I was predicting that the defendants might be able to win by directed verdict. But when I heard Roberta Kaplan summation, her final argument, the Thursday, I guess a week ago tomorrow, before it went to the jury, I had this sinking feeling that they were going to turn everything upside down. And Jessica, do you know what it was that I heard that's kind of related to something that you should be very happy about? Listen to me carefully. You should be very happy about what I heard Roberta Kaplan say that made me think that they were going to lose, that the defendants were going to lose and that the plaintiffs were going to win. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Well, what one count did the plaintiffs win all their money on? The two federal counts, the so-called Ku Klux Klan Act claims, 42 USC section 1985. The jury was deadlocked, and it was an absurd. I'm sorry that they just didn't decide for the defendants, but I hadn't really thought about the third count, which was Virginia conspiracy. And I know somebody who has a case alleging Virginia conspiracy right now. And she should be very happy that it's so easy to win a Virginia conspiracy case, because what this case stands for is you can, God, Ken is floating in outer space.
Sorry, I'm just kind of curious what some of these things are. Let me get back to normal.
You're in a solar eclipse now. I mean,
I got a halo.
He's blocking out Antifa.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it's apparently very easy to win a conspiracy case in Virginia.
Only if, like in their particular situation, they have millions and millions of dollars to work with, and they have pockets that are just empty.
Empty.
What I mean is the people like on the defendant side, or on my side, I should say, because I guess I'm the plaintiff in that part. But anyway, the people on the other side have the empty pockets, and they have the endless pockets where they are funded continuously by the ZOG and all of these organizations. And the part that really tags really close to home is how in this particular situation, we'll go back to Seville, is where you'll have all these particular individuals that are affiliated with all the organizations that are just so happen to be donating all of this money to the court case, like the SPLC, the great SPLC, and then the ADL and all these Jewish organizations. But it seems like they had operatives that were actively in the protests in Charlottesville. And it's kind of odd. I mean, at this point, it would be like kind of conflict of interest, I would think, because they had actually had people from their side attacking people. I mean, I have 46 hours of video footage, and you can see them with their flags, the particular individuals that I'm talking about, who are actually writing articles for the SPLC and the ADL. And then they actually, if you're talking about organization, the particular person at hand needs to be noted for being an organizer. This particular person was nice enough to distribute everyone's identities and all of their profiles, all the way from their family members all the way down to their children, because they didn't care about their kids. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And then they distributed it to the Black Lives Matter and then these Antifa operatives through secret peer-to-peer messaging services. And when they give out people's information like that, I mean, and they're going out and they're saying, I'm going to give this information to people who will do with what they would, that they are just doing what they have to do, as far as, and I don't condemn it, what they do wrong to these people, but that includes all those children.
Jessica, is there any reason you have to make it so vague, and it's kind of confusing when you aren't naming people, or at least saying what their affiliation is?
So I'll give you a good example. So the Megan Squire we had before, she is seen in all of these interviews. I mean, I have articles and articles saved about her just professing to the whole entire world, hey, look at me, I am taking all these identities and all these profiles off of these social media accounts, and I am going to Slack, and I'm talking directly to Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and I'm giving the personal information, including home addresses, email addresses, places of work, and I mean, as the internet is today, you could take an individual and you could just comb through every single bit of personal information, including where their kids go to school, to how much taxes they pay, how much, I don't know how many bathrooms your house has. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then she got all this information on on her own server called the Whack-A-Mole server, that she admitted that she put on a foreign server to keep it away from the U.S. government. It sounds like a terrorist act to me, that you would store information about individuals and then distribute them to terrorist organizations like Antifa and BLM, although they don't want to admit that they are terrorists. But obviously, as we've seen in 2020, that is far, far from the truth, because they are terrorist organizations, regardless if the media or any of the ZOG wants to admit to it. And it seemed like when they gave out this information, and then somebody paid for those people to come out of Philadelphia and New York and Massachusetts and all these different states and all these cities to come into Charlottesville that day to cause violence. Who paid? I wonder, the organizers of that site, who paid for those buses to go pick these people up? Who paid for the bus tickets? Who paid for the room and board for these people? It would be something that all the organizers who are getting sued at this point should consider. Because if you're going to name all the organizers of this, why not name the organizers of the leftist?
Why not?
You know, how did they get their weapons? You know, they had explosives.
Who are the plaintiffs? I mean, who is this is a civil suit, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, who's filing the suits?
I can go back to the list.
All these, it's not or 10, I don't know. It's like 9 or 10 people. I don't know exactly, but it's like they handpicked these particular plaintiffs. One person, the one lady, she's like, I was a block away and I heard a car accident. Now I can't look at cars every day because they scare me. So I need $400,000 a year now because I can't look at a car. Well, how did you get here to court today? Well, I drove a car. Okay, so it just terrifies you so much. You still get in a car and you need $400,000 every time you see a Dodge Challenger drive by. I mean, to see the people in the jury fall for this rhetoric, it just doesn't make any sense.
So why are they suing? And this is, the answer is obvious, but why are they suing the Unite the Right People? Why aren't they suing the other group? Which I guess is kind of what you're asking.
Well, I mean, my perspective is that
why aren't our people suing them?
Huh?
Right.
Our people suing them.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking too. And I've been on and on and on to my organization constantly. We have got to take these people at face value, and we have got to come in and I'll tell you right now, we would never have gotten as far as we are today if we could have took the evidence that I have compiled on this whole event and all the actors, constant actors that are in this whole planning and organizing. Because again, when Antifa and BLM got here, they were not able to carry weapons like they were on those buses. They had coolers of balloons with human feces and urine and balloons with acid and paint in them. They had explosives. They had tear gas. They had pipes and sticks and mag lights like the famous DeAndre Harris carries around. But all this stuff combined. And then you had other Antifa members who were walking around with AR-15s, standing on top of cars and telling people to put their bodies out there in front of the fascists, to put their lives on the line. And so what did they do in that particular alleyway? Well, they did exactly what that guy requested them to do. So why is he not being called as a defendant in this whole process? There's a lot of unanswered questions. We truly should. I mean, I think it's too late at this point because it was back in 2017. Would it be the statute of limitations, Charles?
The problem really is that, certain statutes no, because if there's continuing course of conduct, and if this case is part of that course of conduct, but you know, here's what we've got to do. We've got to actually raise money the same way that the ADL and the SPLC do. We've got to ask people to sue, to fund the lawsuits. And I mean, that's what I really think that Jessica and I need to do, because Jessica has been personally injured by exactly the kind of conduct that she's talking about, by the people she's talking about. And I don't know why the defendants filed no counterclaim, because if the defendants had filed a counterclaim in the Sines v. Kessler case, there was no possibility of it being time barred. But as it is, we'd have to rely on something like the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, famously known as RICO, and that has a 10-year reach back. that has a 10-year reach back, but you have to show that the conspiracy to defraud is still ongoing and alive today, that it isn't over. And up to a point, I mean, what Sines and the other plaintiffs did was they basically said that they suffered emotional distress from watching poor old James Alex Field run into Heather Heyer. That is the theory of the case. That's what all the plaintiffs testified was their damages. They were bystanders in basically a zone of danger created by James Alex Field, who was disowned by absolutely everybody, every active plaintiff. And of course, James Alex Field is off there serving multiple life sentences. He didn't come in and testify. And he had a lawyer there. I'm not sure why he had a lawyer. I'm not sure who paid for him to have a lawyer. I halfway wonder if the plaintiffs didn't pay for James Alex Field's lawyer to be there. Has that ever occurred to you, Jessica?
Well, his lawyer was very, his lawyer and NSM's lawyer truly sucked. It was pretty much, they were just there to just accept whatever.
Yeah, Jessica, did they suck or were they plants? I mean,
I would not be surprised.
I mean, you see, part of what happened was that James Alex Field was his I don't know who his lawyer was, but he sounded black. Was he black?
I don't think so.
No,
I mean, he was just so shallow. He was basically just accepting everything.
he said,
I mean, there's nothing else you can do to this man. He's in hell for the rest of his life, and then 4 more lives.
Jessica, he wasn't shallow at all. He said, and I quote, I am here to discuss the amount of damages that you must award against James Alex Field. And then because of the fluidity of Virginia conspiracy law, because of the fluidity, I think this is the connection problems are totally on your end, because you keep blinking out, by the way. So don't blame me.
Well, Dan, I don't know what's up with this thing here, because I mean, I don't know.
Anyhow, but just let me tell you what I think. I think that James Alex Field's lawyer was that they named him, and then they basically planted or somehow corruptly arranged for his lawyer to go in there and say, you must find my client guilty. You have no choice but to enter damages against James Alex Field. And basically, because you find damages against James Alex Field under Kaplan's really brilliant presentation of Virginia conspiracy law, wherein in another case, you are currently a plaintiff, basically anything goes. If 2 people agree to take a walk, and who the hell is that? Oh, that's Trump. Ken is taking us on a very strange tour here. But anyhow, I'm serious. I'm really serious, because I think that this whole case was a setup, and that that if it had just been raised against the real defendants, the League of the South, Kessler, the Traditional Workers Party, if it had just been against those people who were reasonable defendants, I think that there was nothing. But they added James Alex Field, who was in no position to defend himself. All the multiple convictions for one death. It's kind of confusing. But James Alex Field is basically the scapegoat, the chivo expiatorio. And his lawyer was the one in closing statements who helped Kaplan the most. And I mean, they were talking in the beginning about severing Cantwell's case, right? But they should have severed Fields out, because it was it was the fact that Fields had a lawyer who basically intentionally threw any possibility of defense. And then they got Kaplan to say any harm which happens as a result of coordinated action, you must find them liable. You must find them liable.
Well, why can't we reverse engineer that and do the same thing?
Well, I think we could.
Mean, aside from the money, but
money is the issue. And basically, I mean, what I've been telling Jessica that she and I need to do, and maybe we can kick it off at this point, we need to start raising money for precisely this kind of campaign. And, you know, the ADL isn't bashful about it. They want to smash white supremacists. They want to smash white nationalists. They want to
SPLC, yeah.
They want to smash people who admit that they're white. You know, I mean, all of us are targets, and what's really targeted is not what we do, because we're somewhat harmless and you know, kind of incapable of inflicting any harm on anybody. But our speech is what's really threatened by this verdict. It's talking like we're talking right now. And yes, Ken, you are right. We need to start basically constantly asking people to contribute, you know, to a fund that will counter this. And you know, the RICO model is viable because do you remember Operation Rescue?
yeah.
Operation Rescue was a major anti-abortion group. Operation Rescue was shut down and silent by racketeering suits because the Operation Rescue was protesting outside of abortion clinics. And they said that this was injury to business and property interests. And you know, Jessica in her life, she is afraid for her property. I mean, her house is basic, and her grounds are. She's got like a private Confederate memorial, and she's literally afraid that people are going to be attacking her.
Don't say that right now. Please don't say anything about that. That is not to be on there, please. Thank you.
Well,
because I mean, the thing is,
you are afraid for your business and property, and that's what you have to allege if you want to pursue.
Oh yeah, of course. And I mean, I'm afraid, you know, when they go out and they publish my address all over the internet, all over Instagram, where some black man stood out there in a crowd of thousands of BLM protesters and alerted the crowd with a bullhorn, my full name and my full address, along with 3 other people. And then it was shared on Instagram and it's been viewed over 10,000 times, you know. And then I have hate mail being delivered to my home, hand delivered into my mailbox. And then, you know, and then I take it to the police department and I file a paper with the postmaster, and then nothing has came of it, you know. And then, you know, then I have these same people, you know, the cowards that they are, because they're obviously not, you know, real people of valor, because if they were, they would face me, you know, face forward and actually come to me like they should, but they got to do it behind my back. And they got to make my family fear, just like what I was saying before. Your family doesn't matter in the eyes of Antifa and all their operatives. They will hurt your family just like they would hurt you. So I have to worry about my property, and then I have to worry about me being attacked somewhere by some individual because they're out here posting lies, continuous lies about things. I know in Pittsburgh, they said that the whole reason that I went to Pittsburgh was to murder people. No, the reason I went to Pittsburgh was to see a memorial that they were taking down that was for my ancestors, represented my ancestors. It had nothing to do with racism or slavery or whatever. And I went to there because I have well, I thought I have a constitution. I don't even know if it's a constitution anymore at this point, because obviously they have destroyed the constitution. So I have a permit to carry a firearm, and I go to this location, and this is only after they came to my hometown where I was born and where I do most of my business in, and they decide to try to attack me while the police stood idle and did absolutely nothing for me. So the only thing that I can think of as what they say, we protect us. Well, that's what I was doing. I have a firearm to protect myself because the police don't do a damn thing about it. Judicial system doesn't do a damn thing about it. And when you call the FBI, which I did, the FBI was like, well, what do you want us to do about it? Really? Oh, that's right, because I'm not a minority. You can't do nothing for me. I totally understand fully.
Can you guys think of any case when somebody on our side took the initiative and went on the offensive and won? I'm talking about a court case.
I can't think of a case where anyone tried.
Not even tried.
Well, can you? Correct?
No, I can't.
I can't. I mean, not even tried. No, I mean, I literally know of nobody. I mean, I filed a couple of little actions here in New Orleans, but you know, if you don't have at least $1 million, you can't even you can't bring any attention to such a thing at all. And basically, the judge, my case regarding the New Orleans monuments was assigned to a black judge, and you know, he found it frivolous. He found my case frivolous because, and I did not have you know, a couple $1 million to throw at it. And I mean, a dean at Tulane, Rick Marksbury, he filed his own case too, and his lawyers told him to drop it because they were afraid that he would be smashed and possibly forced into bankruptcy if they found against him. And
what would happen if you and Jessica got together? You can't do it online because everything you say has been recorded. But if you could get together where you're not recorded, not held accountable for some frivolous whatever, and just, you know, get to work on this and put it together. You know, I don't know where to go with it. You know, I have a lot of concerns. Number one is the so-called movement is fragmented into various denominations, like a church, you know, like a religion, and they all fight each other. If you set up a fund and go after the fund, and there's always the problem of corruption, you know, and all those little details need to be addressed, but they're doing it. The other guys are doing it. So it can be done, obviously, but nobody's taking the initiative.
Well,
or maybe they are. I just don't know.
That is a problem. I understand. You got that exactly right. I mean, you hit that nail directly on the head. When you have individuals that say, well, you know, I can't really help because, you know, I've got a wife or husband and kids and I have a job and, you know, I can't really do anything. Oh, but yes, you can, you know, instead of letting your fellow people rot in prison and not even give them any kind of consideration. Or like in my particular situation, I still owe, you know, thousands of dollars to an attorney, but I can't get any help because all of my people are like, well, you know, we support you, but we ain't got the money. I'm sorry, we can't really help. And then, you know, I mean, I do have people that are helping me, bless their hearts. I mean, you know, some really good people. But when it comes down to, you know, the legal fees and stuff like that, I mean, it's a burden. You know, I have a regular life. And then I also have, you know, a business that I must run because I can't get a job anywhere else because they've plastered my name so bad. You know, I'm this big evil person, although I don't have any criminal record whatsoever. I've never done anything in my life bad. I spent 40 years of my life doing everything correctly, getting permits to do things, and then never breaking the law. But now I am entangled in this major issue that is literally eating me, from the inside out. But the sad part about it is everything that's on the right, none of these attorneys, I mean, the only attorney I could get was the one I have right now. And, he doesn't really seem like he wants to do anything. I mean, yeah, he's done, but he just it don't seem like his fire's there anymore. I mean, when I first started talking to him, he was, promising me the moon and the stars. And at this point, it's like, he has no fire. And I mean, I can't get anything else because first of all, you have to pay an additional $10,000. Then you have to get past all the red tape because, well, they don't want to hurt their image, although, again, like I said, I'm not a criminal by no means. I've never broken the law ever besides a speeding ticket. I mean, my God, I might have stole a piece of candy when I was 4 years old. Maybe when I was 4 or 5 years old, I stole some freaking Skittles. Shoot me. Oh, yeah, that's right. Never but anyway.
Well, attorneys have to worry about being sanctioned and they have to worry about being censored and otherwise under the table boycotted. And Charles knows all too well about that. But there are so many little elements there. I mean, where are you going to find a lawyer? One of the first things. And there's a guy in Louisville who is a Klansman, and some of his, what do they call him? Clavern, whatever.
Clavern.
Yeah, some of his guys went to a county fair and got into a fight with some black guys. And so the Klan got sued. The Klan basically being one guy and a group of teenagers, I think. He couldn't find a lawyer. I mean, he had money. He had, I guess, thousands of dollars, and he had cash money. Nobody would take him on, so he had to go to court and defend himself, which I don't get. Seems to me the court would assign him a lawyer, but they didn't. So I don't know how that worked. But that's just one of a zillion issues that has to be, talked about and discussed and decided how we gonna do this.
Well, I mean, a friend of Jessica's and mine, Jerry O'Neill in Montana, has dedicated his life fighting the monopoly of state bar. And he's had some personal success in it, but it just hasn't caught on. Everybody, including Jessica, who gets in any kind of fix, feels that they have to get an insider attorney. But if you get an insider attorney who, say, believes that, as I did 25 years ago, that whites are entitled to bring the same kinds of civil rights actions that blacks do, if you get a lawyer like that, he's on the endangered species. He will either have to quit, or he'll have to withdraw, or he'll end up broke, or all of the above. And,
like in my situation, you got Antifa on Twitter talking crap about my lawyer. I guess he got cold feet. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think that he still has, kahunas that he would not care about what Antifa says, and that he would care about what is the difference in right and wrong. That's why I hired him, because I was under the impression that he knew right and wrong. And I mean, I've probably been worrying the hell out of him, but nobody understands my case, and nobody understands the reality. Like all the people.
Ken doesn't know anything about your case. Why don't you summarize your
but like the vast majority of the people that go to court, and they have this district attorney like I had, Troy Stone, Chicken Man, that goes in there, and he's all about promotions. He's getting, he's basically feathering the pockets of UNC, the college there, that is moving all of its campus operations to that town. And that is the reasons he must look good to these people with a lot of money. But to summarize, I went to Pittsburgh, North Carolina, and October the 5th, 2019. I'd only been to the town once before in my entire life, contrary to what the officer just openly lied about, and said that I was attending courthouse meetings and some kind of hearings and stuff like that. I think that he had me confused with somebody else, because I obviously wasn't there, because I live 2.5 hours away from the facility. Plus, I work as an over-the-road trucker. I don't have the time to sit here and go to all their little meetings and stuff like that. So what I did, the one Saturday I went there, we were totally surrounded by at least 30 or 40 Antifa members, and the police just stood there with their hands on their bulletproof vests and did absolutely nothing. There was one guy who was thrown to the ground by another man. Then the man that was attacked, he ended up having to go. He got a citation. He had to go to court too. So, and then you had another guy who supposedly resisted arrest. Well, and then the cop was shutting the door on him, on his own car door on him, after the Antifa members was blocking him from leaving the parking lot. But they were very hostile individuals. And I went there because I was told that the monument was coming down. And usually when they come down, you never see them again. So I knew I would act. I'd go ahead and go take pictures of it, go see it, because it will be gone forever. It'll be in storage like it is today, 2 years later. And I'll never see it again. And I knew, like I said, my own ancestors fought for the Haw River Boys in Chatham County, so that represented him. It's almost like his final headstone. And most of the boys in that area were not recovered. Their bodies were left on the battlefields. So to me, it's very important to me. Well, anyway, when I got there and surrounded by Antifa, which I didn't even know who these people were. I've never met them in my entire life. They didn't know who I was. Somehow I think that they work with the police department, because for some odd reason, when they got my license plate off my pickup truck, took pictures of my license plate, took pictures of my truck, and took pictures of me and said, oh, this is not just a random truck. This is, and here's her vehicle, and she does this for a living, and pretty much just said my whole bio on Twitter. And then here's the police department. I think the police actually was entangled helping Antifa at this point, getting the information about me. So I even have a body cam footage video that says that I'm asking my friends, I come here to see the monument. I want to see the monument. Of course, that video is not allowed in court. I don't understand why. It would have proved my innocence. And then, of course, they were like, it's not safe. These people will attack you. You can't go to the monument. I mean, there's like 30 or 40 of them. We don't want to split up. I understood. I said, well, shit. Okay, well, maybe I'll try next Saturday. Maybe this event's happening this week. Maybe next week I can try again. The second time I went, I didn't know that they were sitting at a coffee shop at the corner watching every car go by, if it had a Confederate flag on it or a Trump sign on it or some kind of whatever right, far right, cuck right, whatever right, soft right kind of decal on a truck, that they were immediately getting on this Chatham Takes Action or something like that page and reporting to all the Antifa members in the area, hey, there's a white supremacist in the area. I didn't know this stuff. So it was almost like it was a cog, everything was happening as it was, as the day went by. I was the very first person there. I was the very first parking spot in over there by a public parking area by a karate school or something like that. And 10 minutes, I sat there. I was waiting for my two friends to get there. And they were late, of course. They were coming from two different places in North Carolina. And so when I was sitting there, two other vehicles came in about 10 to 15 minutes later. And then I walked over to them and I said, I heard the monument's coming down. What's up? Give me some details. And so they gave me a little bit of the details or whatever. Then another guy showed up, which I had met him on Facebook. And I didn't even really know him. I'd met him once before. He was obviously not a local friend. I don't have his personal phone number and his email address, and I don't get to talk to him every day back then. So, I was obviously unarmed. He testified that I was helping him put a flagpole on his truck. I had my arms straight up in the air. And obviously, when you raise your arms up high, your shirt is coming up. He testified that I had an empty holster, a pre-molded police type empty holster on my belt, affixed to my belt already. And then, of course, one of my friends got there. He was standing by the road and telling me he was feeling bad because he didn't take his meds, that he needed to go to a restaurant, eat something first, and then take his meds. And he was over there talking to some guy, asking where the restaurants was, because again, we didn't know where anything was at. And so I'm over there tying a lanyard to the flag because we're going to take it up to the monument and tie it onto the barricades that are wrapped around the monument at the time. And so when my other friend finally got there, she was actually getting her camera equipment ready, and we was going to go on up to the monument. And I walked over to my truck, grabbed my weapon, picked it up from the console, slid it into my pre-molded holster or retention holster on my side. And then I picked up a coffee, and I had a flag in my hand, draped over my arm, and a coffee in this hand. And I made a straight beeline from my pickup truck to the road. The police body cam footage is evident. It shows perfectly what I was doing. The cop said, yeah, she probably was going somewhere. It looked like she was going somewhere. Where'd you stop her at? Well, I stopped her right there at the curb of the road. If she would have kept walking, she would have walked into the street. That was his testimony. But they said that I was participating in. They said I was doing all three, participating in. Participating means I would think having the flag straight out, right? Spectating, it means I was actually looking at people, actually committing to it, affiliated with. Well, I'd probably have to know these people to be affiliated, correct? So the law was so vague, it doesn't make any sense. And every one of the officers said that I went back to my truck to retrieve something they don't know what it was. And so anyway, I ended up getting arrested. The officer said that I was protesting and that it was illegal to protest with a firearm, even if I had a permit. He didn't explain anything else. He just said that. So then I said, well, give me a chance. I'll put it away. I'm not protesting. I don't know what you're talking about. Explain what that means. He wouldn't tell me. So he arrested me. He confiscated my weapons. And then he was telling me he was going to throw my flag on the ground to disrespect it. Obviously, he would have loved that. And they hauled me off to jail, and they kept me for 8 hours in jail. And then they told me to walk back home, walk back. And it's like, okay, so where the hell am I? Because I don't even know where I'm at. I'm out in the middle of the county. I don't even know which way to walk because I was in the back of a van when they arrested me. And then, of course, I went to the lower court after I walked for several miles. Finally, somebody picked me up because, again, I was like, do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go straight? Hell, I don't know which way to go. So finally, somebody picked me up and took me to my vehicle. Thank goodness. But anyway, when I went to the district court, the judge admits, yeah, the law was poorly written, and I know you're a good person, but I'm going to still have to prosecute you. So, and then of course the public defender that I had, I didn't know that she was an advocate for the BLMers, actually marching with BLM, and she even came to one of my hearings wearing a Black Lives Matter T-shirt. So I knew right away that I wasn't going to get a chance in this court. There's no way I was going to get a fair trial.
I think that there must be some kind of order in place that all prosecutors are supposed to wear Black Lives Matter endorsements where it's considered politically advantageous or something, because in the Rittenhouse case, the prosecutor was definitely wearing a BLM lapel pin the whole trial.
Oh my goodness.
But I mean,
you know, they're talking about the whole reasons they need to take down the Confederate monuments in front of the courthouses is because when they have the Confederacy standing out in front of the courthouses, they feel like they can't get a fair trial. Okay, well, is that the same way for us when they wear BLM propaganda inside the courthouse? Shouldn't that be an obvious? We're not obviously, you know, at this point, I don't even think the 14th Amendment applies to white people, period. But, you know, then I went to Superior Court, and I mean, I knew, you know, this was only after, you know, I asked for a change of venue because the front page of the newspaper featured a picture of me and that I was a Southern nationalist, white nationalist, and white supremacist. And it also indicated to everyone who read it that I had an upcoming trial coming into the court system in Chatham County. And then also they went to this agricultural center. And then at the agricultural center, at the front door where people were voting on one end, and then 100 and 200 people, I'm not even sure how much, but they were all going in and listening to an anti-Confederate seminar that day. And as they were out there in front of the door, they were handing out flyers with my
hello,
loser
newspaper. They were actually sitting out.
Jessica, we lost you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Hold on a minute. It's on there.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, but anyway, this flyer had the same image on it, and it also, like I said, it said Southern nationalist, white nationalist, white supremacist on it, again indicating my court date. So basically, they tainted the jury pool. They went in there, and everybody that is in from that area that became my jury already knew who I was. And then the judge denied me the change of venue, which should have been a mistrial immediately. And then I know in court, the district attorney was allowed to change the citation. They put in there that I was only protesting with a firearm, affiliated with present as a spectator, but they didn't pull the whole charge on the citation. So, you know, my attorney did bring that up, but then the judge allowed him to change it in the middle or after the close of evidence. And when he changed it, he was allowed to, the prosecuting attorney was able to get up out of his seat, walk out the courtroom unsupervised, and stand out there where the jury was being sequestered for 7 to 8 minutes. Tell me he didn't say something to that jury, because when he walks in, he has a book in his hand that he never goes to. He just sets the book down, and he's got the smile on his face. You know, obviously he did more than just go and get a book. And I don't understand that. That should have been a mistrial. Why did my attorney did not object to that? He should have been, you know, had a police officer escort him up there or something. And I don't know why they let that go either. And then, you know, of course, after I was found guilty, then I found an Antifa was putting up every single thing about my case online on Twitter. Of course, adding their own, you know, little messages on there about it. But it's kind of funny how the WebEx, I noticed in the transcript, the WebEx was only supposed to be for jury selection. It was not supposed to continue to keep going, but it did. And then they pretty much gave me an entire transcript. I mean, I guess I should be honored at this point. I'm flattered that they took their 2 days of their life to follow my case and to type up every single thing about it. I mean, I truly think at this point, if I had to actually pay the rent bill of living in these people's heads for so long, it would just be enormous. So, but
very confusing, Jessica.
Well, I mean, these, like I said, they went in there and they did the transcript basically on Twitter to let everybody know what was going on with my case.
I mean,
And
I'll tell you something based on my experience. Somebody, they are not doing that for free. They are paying people to do that.
well, yeah. And I mean, before I went to Superior Court, I lost my case in district court. And so the Friday that I was in court, I know that there was a video that appeared out of thin air. And originally this video did not exist. But then it appeared in the middle of the courtroom and I'd never seen it before. And so then I'm seeing it for the first time as the judge is seeing it in the district court. And what it shows is everything that I had said. I'm walking straight from my truck while I'm armed. I had separated from everyone and walked straight from my truck, straight to the road, not talking to anyone, not looking at anyone, not prostrating my flag to anyone, nothing. I'm just walking straight across by everybody as the video shows. And anyway, with that being said, it's just such a messed up ordeal, really. If they would have showed me that video, I mean, I would be like, oh, there it is right there. There's your proof. I would have never made it out of that district court if I would have been shown the evidence from the day one. So then Monday, I drove back down there and I said, that video that they prosecuted me with, I want that video. Oh, well, you can't have that video. Oh, yes, I can. I want that video. Well, you're going to have to stand in line because you're just another case. Well, then Monday night, the SPLC, the Great Southern Poverty Law Center, decided to drop a feature all about me and my case. And for some odd reason, they had the quotes of the video. It's like my own video, I was not able to get, but the SPLC got a copy of it. That kind of sounds a little scandalous to me. But anyway, because I know that in court, the end of that video was not played in court. The part that they quoted in their article was not played in court. It was not public. So they got the video. Somehow, somebody in that courtroom gave the SPLC that video. And so Wednesday, I went back to get the video. And then they were like, well, your case is high profile at this point. So we're going to have to talk to you when nobody else is in here. And I said, high profile? Why is it high profile? Monday it was just another case. Today it's high profile. Is that because the SPLC features me in their article? Did that have something to do with it? And it's kind of like the deer in the headlights look. We're gonna have to talk to you later about that because we really can't answer that question.
Well, what are your thoughts on all this? I mean, what do you perceive from Jessica's story?
Well, what I take away from this is that it seems to me that the judicial system is been so saturated, permeated with leftist ideology that the notion of justice, unbiased justice, is no longer there. I mean, it's kind of obvious from what Jessica was saying.
So so does that mean that gets us back almost in a 2-hour loop to where I started? Do BLM and Antifa, or the people who control BLM?
Zog.
Well, Zog is a concept that's kind of like Antifa, isn't it? It is
Antifa.
Well, then just call it Antifa, because people brag about being part of Antifa. Nobody actually admits to being part of a Zionist occupation.
Well, so you remember, I don't know if you listen to Metallica, right? And so you have that, the Master of Puppets on the front page, and they have the two hands there with all the strings attached. and then you have the, it attached down, and it's almost like the master of puppets. The Zog controls their, what would you call it? They're subhuman beings underneath, and tells them what to do and how to do it, and and then of course nurtures them with it be money or propaganda or some sort. But as you said, nothing is done for free.
Well, I mean, do you think it's useful to think about Zog, or is there some other way that we can phrase it or envision it that might be a little bit more politically palatable?
I don't think so.
Well,
pretty much like peanut butter and jelly.
Which, as we all know, is racist. But
What?
yeah, there's got to be a better way that you can articulate something without, because the far left has saturated our thinking process where certain terms are immediately red flags in anybody's mind. And if you say that word, then you think this thought. And if you say Zog, everybody thinks you're a nutcase. So how do you bypass that? How do you communicate a thought without raising the red flag? That is a psychological principle that is called loading of the language. And leftists are very good at inventing terms or stealing terms that don't belong to them, and they misuse them. And other terms they demonize. They're very good at that, and we have to be aware of it. And it's kind of like playing chess. Okay, that's their move. Now what's our move? So we got to be careful that we don't, they set out these traps for us and we step in them, because we have character, and we're, we got to use a little bit of sense. So we don't want people to think we're nuts, but we want to communicate the thought at the same time. So we got to be careful to do that. But does that answer your question, or are you driving to something else?
How would you recommend that we deal with, the fact that the majority of the lawyers on the plaintiff's side seem to have a certain, let's call it, heritage. George Soros apparently shares that heritage. Well, you're laughing, Jessica, but I mean, the point is that, Michael Hill and Chris Cantwell and the Traditional Workers Party, for that matter, they all came out very loud and clear about their beliefs. Now, that was one of the very interesting things about this trial, is that Michael Hill minced no words about believing that there was a Jewish conspiracy. Chris Cantwell minced no words about it. And they were both pretty articulate about it. And then in the summary statement on the final day, the Traditional Workers Party played a video. I assume it was a video that I had never heard. It was a recorded ad. And basically, it was a beautifully done commercial piece stating the values and opinions of the Traditional Workers Party, including belief in a Jewish conspiracy against white people. And so I think one thing we have to realize is that that strategy didn't work. Whatever else happened, Kaplan and Company, Levine, Kaplan and Company won the day in Charlottesville, and all the eloquent and honest speeches that Michael Hill and Chris Cantwell and other people made from the witness stand did them no good at all. This has been, if Charlottesville did anything good for the white nationalist movement, it was pretty much canceled yesterday, because I
don't think so. I think that there will be a sequel to all of this. I don't think that white nationalism is dead in the water.
For the moment, it's canceled.
No, it's not. I remember there's this video And it was almost like the defendant's attorneys was sitting there smiling in glee, because there's a sequel to this, and the sequels are being filed at the moment. So that's all I have to say about that. But it will, I think it will go over like, a snowflake in hell, basically. I think that, what I understand, okay, just like in the Aubry trial today, and when they have these jurors that are basically being forced, I think they tried to do it in the Rittenhouse case too, but the Allen charge, the whole Allen charge, when they forced the jury, they were deadlocked. Okay, so if they were hung jury, then that means nothing would have been awarded. But then, because the timing is everything, I think timing was a very good part of the case to begin with. We're just going to put it so close to the holidays that we're going to disgust the jury that they're just going to throw something out. And that's ultimately what they did. They basically took everyone's lives and they said, we want to go home to our families for Thanksgiving. We're just going to throw this out. And then, of course, they're deadlocked. Well, we'll take care of it after Thanksgiving. Oh, no. You go back in there under the Allen charge, and you go in there and you force an anonymous vote or a unanimous. Okay. So originally it was supposed to be unanimous. Well, then forcing them, that's obviously not unanimous, is it? It's a coercion. So it should be, I would be willing to say we challenge that. That has to be a way to challenge that whole Allen charge.
You're talking about what can happen on a motion for retrial or an appeal. And my point, when I said that whatever good came from Charlottesville backfired, I'm talking about the headline, $26 million in damages awarded. And, the New York Times pronounces it a major victory for the plaintiffs. And if this is overturned on appeal, if there is what's called a remediature, even if they get reduced down to $1 in actual damages, one issue there is that if they get reduced to $1 in actual damages, they still get attorney's fees. That's one.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what it basically tells me in a roundabout way, so while you have a permit to organize, you have a First Amendment right to organize, and when you do so as a white nationalist or far right, cuck right, soft right, whatever right, but then you can go out there like the Black Panthers, the Huey Gun Club, BLM, Antifa, you can go out there and you can burn stuff down, you can go rob places, you can go attack people on the highway. That right there, when I seen the year 2020, you had Antifa out there literally burning businesses down and blocking traffic while they're masked up. That is the 1871 Ku Klux Klan Act to me. That is full-fledged. And if I would tell everybody here that is blocked in traffic, if they're trying to go to work or school or whatever it may be, and they're blocked by Antifa, remember this whole deal. Remember how their law, their 1871 Ku Klux Klan law, or what was it, U.S. 42, 18, what is it?
42 United States Code, Title 42 United States Code, Section 1985.
Yeah, so remember that, kiddies. Whenever you are blocked by Antifa or BLM protesters with their mask on their face, remember that rule. And remember, you can sue them for this because that's ultimately what it is.
Except that 1985 is called the Ku Klux Klan Act. Does it matter? Let's let Ken comment on this. Put
it on the screen. Put it on the screen.
How are you going to sue a mask? These guys, they have no identity. How are you going to sue them?
No. Let me finish the question. Does it matter that the Congress enacted something called the Ku Klux Klan Act specifically to suppress whites against whites taking action against blacks? When we talk about original intent in regard to the Constitution, how about original intent in regard to statutes? It's called legislative intent. And basically, many courts around the country have said that the Ku Klux Klan Act was enacted only for the benefit of black plaintiffs against whites. This is basically, again, part of why I lost my license, because I, in the state of Texas, wanted white people to be able to complain about police mistreatment in the same way that black people do. And that's not an awfully radical or racist position, is it? But that's basically what changed my life, is that that white people in Texas were being, let's be kind of vulgar about it. White people were being treated like niggers. I dared to point this out to the courts, that the police were engaged in brutality and false arrest and entry without warrants in white people's homes in a very affluent suburb of Austin called Lago Vista. And people were being arrested for basically nothing. And all of this resulted from basically the 1990s overfunding of municipal police departments. And the FBI, which investigated me, warned me explicitly, and I quote, if white people start raising the same kind of civil rights claims that Black and Hispanic people do, society will be ungovernable. The whole American continent will devolve into chaos.
Do you have that in writing somewhere?
That particular quote, no, I don't. But I can name the FBI agent who told me that. It was Nancy Houston, and she was quoting her own conversations with Judge James Arnall.
Well, that's a shame that you don't have a recording of that, because that's powerful.
It changed my life. What can I tell you? It was a major impact on my life. But I mean, I think what's going on in the country bears that out. Civil rights is for Black people. And when white people raise civil rights issues, we'll see what Rittenhouse does. I mean, Rittenhouse now has the right to sue under the civil rights laws for violation of his civil rights due to malicious prosecution, wrongful arrest, abusive process. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, I should be able to do the same as well, because I mean, they have all the things that they have done to me. They've made my life a living hell for the last 2 years.
If you win this appeal, yes.
Yeah.
You don't. Right now, all you've got is potentially stalking by Antifa.
Well, no, I mean them, taking my rights away, basically. Why is it, the question that I have? Okay, so you have an Antifa operative, a BLMer, who used to go to UNC, and she specifically was arrested for trespassing, vandalism, resisting arrest, assaulting a police officer twice, simple affray, assault, battery. I mean, she has like a whole list, a laundry list of all these convictions, right? And then I have no convictions. I have no criminal record whatsoever. Why did they give me supervised probation and then give her unsupervised probation? And then again, with the whole civil rights thing, this should be the turning point where us as persons with no melanin in their skin tones, we should be able to fight for our civil rights at this point. Because what is it, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution you know, the equal liberties. We're not getting them. You know, we should be.
Original intent. You've heard that concept, right? The original intent of the 14th Amendment was to defeat the white governments of the South and basically to prevent the white governments of the Reconstruction South from bullying Black people, basically. It was not ever intended to work the other way. And I mean, in other words, we're faced with a very major inequality mandated by law. And I think that that is purely a political problem. And so, I mean, part of the campaign that we've got to start, and that maybe Ken will help us start, is to campaign against the law and be very explicit about what's going on. There is no equality in the United States of America right now. And I think that the 3 cases that came out, and that again goes back to why I asked this question about who really controls the United States after these 3 cases. I mean, you know, Rittenhouse gets off and he denounces any affiliation with white pro-white activism. And so he gets off and he's going to be basically a good boy and he's going to campaign against people like us.
Yeah.
But the 2 cases that were much more clearly racial in their spirit were Charlottesville and the Ahmed Aubry case, and
the jogger that's jogging with combat boots and a hammer. And that's another thing. It's like I seen the video today, and you know, it's like really slow motion. The guy that's driving behind everything that's going on, and he's getting murder charges. But anyway, he actually drives over the hammer that Aubry, the jogger, was carrying in his hands. The unarmed hammers don't count. Hammer lives matter. And then he takes a firearm. I mean, if you take a firearm and then you pull it towards you, and your finger's on the trigger? Yeah, he probably should have had his finger on the trigger. Yeah. But anyway, and you take that weapon and you pull it this way, what's going to happen to the trigger and the finger that's in it? Obviously, and really and truly, I take it as though Aubry committed suicide, basically, because he pulled a loaded shotgun into his stomach and it went off. Did you see that? I mean, if he would have just kept going around the truck, straight around the truck, he would have got around the truck and been fine, right? Or maybe he should have waited for the police to get there, and then maybe they could have explained why they were trying to keep him. Because I think the one guy that was in the back of the pickup truck was actually talking to the police as it was going. I mean, you seen him with the phone upside his head as the whole incident that transpires. So the guy that's calling the police, the guy that's trying to report everything, never fires his weapon ever, and he's now held under murder charges. And then you got this clown, this black supremacist, and that's what I will call him because he even says that he is, goes and mows down all these white children. And when you're looking at it on the media, it was a car crash. It's not hate related. It wasn't anything about terrorism. Okay, so if James Fields gets 419 years for the just say the cardiac arrest, and then Aubry, or no, excuse me, the black supremacist. I mean, what are they going to do with him? How many is he going to get for 6 people now? 6, who most of them. Most of the people that were hurt was kids, little babies.
Well, I mean, the most dangerous people in the world are said to be grandmothers. And he took out 5 grandmothers, as I understand it.
I know. I know. I mean,
we gotta wrap this up, but I want to start by saying, I mean, it is Thanksgiving Eve, and on this Thanksgiving Eve, what do we have to be thankful for? And I guess I would say, let's be thankful for clarity. I think that the events of the past week have and should make everything very clear to the people of the United States that in fact there is no equality, and that civil rights is a pro-Black and only pro-Black, possibly pro-Hispanic movement in this country. There is no equality, and we now see that clearly. I think we should be thankful for that clarity, for that message, and for the hope, and let's hope and pray for the inspiration to carry this forward, and to realize that the judicial system is fixed. It is best used strategically rather than for specific goals or specific justice. And, may God give us the strength to pursue what we now can perceive clearly. Ken, you next. What do we have to be thankful for this Thanksgiving?
Well, I would offer a dittos to everything you just said, but I'm very grateful for people like you and Jessica. It's very encouraging to know that there are people out there. One of the highlights of my week is when we do these chats. Really doesn't matter how many people are watching, just the fact that I can get together with people like you and Bill Johnson, Jessica, and some others who have their heads screwed on straight, who are clearly thinking it through the fog and the smog, and they can see what's going on. To me, that is, it's very encouraging. If you talk to a woman who babysits all day with little preschoolers, she is so grateful to have an adult to talk to at the end of the day. And that's the way I feel. I'm talking to adults here, finally, people who can think clearly. We don't agree on everything, but far closer than most anybody else on the planet who have succumbed to the cultural Marxism virus. So that's what I'm thankful for.
Jessica?
thank you so much for that. I mean, that is true. And I mean, I like to thank the good Lord for the breath that we do have, the purposes that we have in life, the bravery, even, in my particular case, that I do have the bravery to stand here and talk to people and share my story. And, even beyond the death threats and the nastiness that they've talked about me, and I can still do this. I mean, I still am resilient. They have not beat me down. But I think the good Lord that we are becoming more aware, that we do understand what is going on and what is conspiring against us. And then I thank the good Lord that there are people out there like, the people that are listening at this point are the ones that will view later that are actually taking their time and to listen. And then, of course, people like you that are putting it out front and center. I mean, when I was arrested that day, of course, I was, obviously, I'm in really bad shape. You remember that. I mean, I was just giving up. I mean, I was really down, and, I had lost all my drive, all my interest and everything, because my whole world had came to a screeching halt. And so you reached out to me and you basically breathed new life into my case and into me. And then, I have my brothers and sisters who stand by me, spiritually, emotionally, and, they keep me going beyond even my immediate family. So I'm grateful for the people in my life and the people in my extended family, and the good Lord for every blessing that he gives us.
I guess one final thing to be thankful for is that flag behind you is a symbol of resistance. It's a symbol of fighting Marxism and government. It was that Courier and Ives print we were looking at about Abraham Lincoln's coalition has continued to this day, and we can still draw inspiration from that flag and people all over the world. And one of the ironies is it's not just white people who draw inspiration from that flag, not by a long shot. It is people all over the world who feel coerced by the New World Order, who feel coerced by globalism, who look to that flag as a symbol of hope and resistance and rebellion, even against incredible odds. And so let's be thankful for people like you, indeed, that you have the character and that the willingness to hold that flag proudly as a symbol of resistance. And I'm really happy to hear that Ken voted for George Wallace, who was also flying that flag in 1972. That is inspirational to me, because although I was only 12 at the time, my family were great George Wallace supporters. I shook his hand on at least 3 occasions when I was a little boy, and that flag was everywhere he went. And he took it to Indiana, obviously. I remember on the day that he was shot, attempted assassination by Arthur Bremer, he carried Michigan and Maryland together, 50% of the vote in each of those northern states. And so anyhow, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And thank you, Ken, for your time. Thank you, Jessica. And you know, we will talk again soon. Good night. Happy Turkey Day, everybody. And we'll be talking soon.
Good. Take care. Bye.
All right, y'all take care. Dios bendice.
Deo